Welcome back to the Money Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Moses, the mentor. And on this episode, I have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Renee Baker. Now, Dr. Baker is the founder and CEO of the RBI Group. She's an adjunct professor. She's a mentor and a community leader. She's here to share her journey, as well as her insights on wealth management, financial literacy, and building wealth. So let's dive in. All right. Thank you so much for joining the Money Focus Podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time out your busy schedule. The first thing I love for my guests to do is to really walk us through their career journey, their professional journey, and ultimately how they started their business. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. As you said, my name is Dr. Renee Baker, and I'm the founder and CEO of the RBI Group. My career really started in corporate. I majored in finance undergrad, and I always like to mention the fact that I did not in high school. I had no intention of majoring in finance. I had no idea that this would be my area of focus. I initially was focusing on biology and wanted to become a doctor, and I became one, but just in a different way than I planned. I ended up going into finance, really good in math and science, loved those topics and subjects. So went over into finance, and I'll tell you that I am so glad that I found this industry. My mother always said that we don't always get what we want, but we always get what we need. And this career is what I needed. So I spent about 29 years in financial services until I launched my own company and took the courageous voluntary leap to pursue entrepreneurship full time. I worked in Wall Street, had the pleasure of working in New York, London, Cayman Islands, and really working in all different aspects of financial services to get me to where I am today.
And congrats, 29 years in the industry, and you decided to make that leap. What were some key experiences that you took along the way through your professional career and also from the academic standpoint that kind of helped shape your viewpoint toward wealth management overall?
Yeah, so love this question. Because I grew up in a small town in southern New Jersey, we really didn't have a lot of knowledge. It wasn't a topic that we spoke about. So throughout my career, one of the things that I recognized or I saw was the disparities in financial knowledge, and not just in the community that I came from, but just the community overall. So there became this inherent desire to bridge that gap. Initially, I didn't realize that that's what I was trying to do, but every time I would learn something, I would go back and like, hey, did you go back to my family, go back to my friends? Did you know this? Did you know that? So really wanting to bridge that gap and not having a structure. We weren't really talking about financial education, financial literacy back in the 90s, but we were talking about the need to have financial solutions without realizing, I guess I should say. So just really understanding finance is something that I wanted to bring to the community, and something that I also learned myself. And I'd say another thing is I was a sponge early in my career. I'm still a sponge. I work towards getting better, getting at least 1% better, everything that I do. But I was a sponge, and I would listen and learn. And I think that's a life hack, the ability to learn and to recognize that we don't know everything, but we can continue to learn. When we know better, we do better. But I just listened. I asked a lot of questions. I stayed curious and really absorbed as much information as I could to help me prepare, at least find understanding all the different components of that. And then the next thing that I'll say that has been really helpful is the power of relationships and networking. Over the years, I have built a wonderful network and people who, beyond the transaction, it was not about having transactional relationships. It was really about building relationships and being able to tap into those experts now that maybe I sat with in a cubicle early in my career. And now I'm being able to tap into those individuals and the people that I met. For a long time, I never had an ask. I just wanted to, and then even some cases now, I don't have an ask. I just want to build strong, positive relationships with people that I like, know, and trust. And then from there, we'll build. So those are the three things I would say. Just understanding that there was a disparity and wanting to be the change, recognizing the importance of relationships and building on those relationships by making that connection and trying my very best to get better every day by learning and growing and sharing.
Yeah, that's great advice. Especially the relationships one.
Yes.
That's huge. That's huge. I still have my corporate career. I'm also an investor, and I can tell you, the relationships I've built in my corporate career makes me feel really good that if I needed a job, one call away from people from various companies and industries, that I would feel pretty strong I can land somewhere. And then relationships on the flip side now on from a podcast is that I've met people from all walks of life, and I haven't asked them for money or anything like that. I'm simply just really offering my expertise and really being curious, what you said a moment ago as well, to really learn what they bring to the table as well. And I think people appreciate the energy that I bring, and it just really bridges for a long-standing relationship, an organic relationship that hopefully stands the test of time. So I would
That's right.
definitely, yeah, I would definitely co-sign that relationships and being curious are two best practices that people should implement. And it kind of rolls into my next questions because when it comes to your clients and also people in the community, are there any other approaches or techniques that you would really suggest that someone, be exposed to that would help them further along with their money management journey or just understanding money overall?
Yeah, I think that it's so important to leverage the tools and resources that are available to us. We have so much information at our fingertips. So while I spend time talking about financial education, I have tools and resources that I can leverage that I'm talking about is it's all available. And one of the key differences, I sound like a dinosaur, but back when I was in undergrad, we really didn't have the level of access to information that we have today. Please, if I had YouTube back in the day or TikTok or whatever, I don't know, there's a lot of people who have different viewpoints about TikTok, but the reality is there's access. Read a lot of books. I'm still a ferocious reader. I believe in educating. And as much as I've spent all these decades in this industry, there's always still more to learn and more to do. So I think the value of always learning, reading, talking to other experts, having a money mentor, because one of the things is we sometimes feel like we have to know everything and we don't. There's so much power. We talked about relationships, but leveraging those relationships. I love talking to people that have more experience than me, that are smarter than me, that bring something different to the table. So staying curious and changing our mindset. You said that earlier. The first thing that I had to do in this journey, whether it was going into entrepreneurship, being in corporate and understanding that I deserved to be in the spaces and places where I was in or where I was located, was my mindset. I had to understand that one, yes, I deserve to be here. Two, make it more positive. I mean, some of us have money mindsets that has stood the test of time from people who maybe didn't have the same level of access that we had or who didn't know. So I definitely had to change my mindset about money. I deserve it. I'm worthy. Yes, I am maybe statistically behind, but here are some of the things that I can do and overcome some of those biases that I had within myself has been one of the most transformative components of this journey. And I encourage us to, when we're talking about behavioral finance or some of the psychological factors that impact our financial decisions, really changing our mindset first. So those are some of the things I think we really have to trust that we have access to this information, we deserve it, and we have to be ferocious in our approach to wanting to learn and to understand. And if we don't have it, if we don't want to understand it, some people say, I feel like that way about accounting and I'm minored in it. Let somebody else do it. But at least somebody else is there to do it.
Accounting is very important, but I don't enjoy it as well. When I was younger, my math teachers used to always say, "Oh, Moses, you should be an accountant," because I was good in math. And I remember when I first took accounting, I said, "Wait, this is not what I thought it was going to be." It's just not about numbers. It's about where the numbers go and tracking and all that. So it just wasn't for me. I'm still in finance though, but just not accounting. Speaking of learning in the academic environment, so on top of being an entrepreneur and leading the RBI Group, you're actually also a professor. So talk to us about how those two great, kind of professions and roles, how they actually complement each other. And also if there's any times where they actually conflict and it just drives you crazy. I would love to know that too.
Well, let me just tell you, I love teaching. Even when I was still in corporate, I always found time to be with the students. Now, I love school. So being on a campus, it brings me life. But teaching, most importantly, it keeps me at the forefront of new theories and practices. And I am able to integrate that into my business. When I was in corporate, I was able to integrate that into the work that I've done. And what I'm able to provide to the students are real world experiences. So I use real world case studies. It helps to enrich my teaching. It helps to enrich my research. And it allows the opportunity for me to be able to have a practical experience, providing practical advice to the students. And in turn, I'm learning from them. So I say it keeps me at the forefront of what's relevant to now Gen Z. When I first started teaching, it was more around the millennials. So now I'm focusing more understanding the dynamic of Gen Z. That helps me not only bring innovative solutions to my clients, but it also helps me to better understand even how I'm hiring and bringing people into the business. And I do find value in bridging theory and practical application of the work that I have chosen to do. So I really enjoy being a professor and being able to teach and do the work. Just, I feel like it differentiates me in a way that I'm always going to stay on top of what's relevant, what's front and center to the consumer audience, being abreast of different changes. Now, I really don't see where it conflicts. If anything, maybe the conflict is that I wish I had more time to spend with the students, but I'm running a company. But I'd say the experience of choosing, right? Because, being an adjunct professor is a lot of work, no disrespect. No one is going to get rich off of this, but it's how we define abundance. And this richness that I get is through the experiences of working with the students. And I also think that whenever we can teach something, it makes us better, right? I have to stay, and if the students are not going to let me be boring. And my days are long, and the students are going to make sure that it's not boring, that is relevant, that is focused, and the questions they ask. I really enjoy the inquisitive nature of the students. So all joy, love it. And the tie to being an entrepreneur is even better because it certainly enriches this experience and helps me to continue to get better every day.
It gives you a front row seat into the next generation of workers and employees and people that and clients. So,
Right.
because,
Students will tell me, I'm always learning from the students about new and effective technology and what they're paying attention to. So I think we really, especially in our industry here in finance, we really need to understand the nuances of the different generations and the generational wealth transfer and how that's going to impact the next generation. So I think that becomes really relevant to the advisor community that I serve and support in that work so that we can continue to make sure we're meeting people where they're at.
You definitely sound like you're someone that, enjoys being around people and serving your community. Are there any initiatives that you've been a part of, that you would like to share with the audience that really has been impactful to you and also to your company, the RBI Group?
Yes, so I'm really big on community and supporting the communities that I serve. And it was a big focus of mine when I was still in corporate, and that continues in my entrepreneurship journey. Now, I support many different initiatives, and I'm really big on health and advocacy and making sure that as women and as a Black woman that we're aware of some of the disparities when it comes to health. So some of those health initiatives are really important, which does have a financial impact because if we don't have access when it comes to health, it's costing us with our lives. It's costing us with our ability to get access to proper health care. So that is also important to me. Financial education is always going to be, I don't even look at it as an initiative. It is part of who I am as a human. And being able to partner with organizations, nonprofit organizations, church organizations, local organizations, and even financial advisors to integrate just the fundamentals when it comes to financial education into their work and the curriculum. We have a curriculum geared towards kindergarten through eighth grade called the Sensibles through the RBI Group, which my partner really started to work on before we launched the RBI Group. That is centered on helping bring the fundamentals to young people to get them in front of and understanding money sooner. There's a lot of research out there that talks about the sooner that we expose children to financial education, the better they make better and more informed financial decisions as they get older, which has a positive impact on the community and in their lives. But we also want to help increase their confidence. And students, I think there's about, the percentage is about 40%, that there's an increase in students' confidence when they better understand how to manage their finances. And there's a benefit from a long-term impact when there's early financial education. And while I spend my time talking to all financial advisors, getting in front of women, getting in front of women of color, and you might say, well, why women? Because I believe that there's a gap. And as a woman, and no one can tell you better than a person who's lived it. As a woman, I definitely wanted to make sure that other women were confident, felt that they were empowered when it comes to their finances, and have those conversations and with communities of color. So those are some of the initiative. I'm always going to find a way to talk about financial education. I'm always going to find a way to amplify the causes that are important to the work that I do, whether it's healthcare, education, financial education, and helping to mentor and support those that are in the industry, as well as young people who want to learn more around entrepreneurship or finance in general.
Nice. I mean, I think you covered a lot of what I was going to ask you, because financial literacy might be one component of the whole process, but you talked earlier about having the right mindset towards money, being curious, relationships. And then fundamentals when it comes to just understanding finances. I always, on my show, I bring up a lot about people not really understanding what inflation is, and inflation becoming this buzzword since the pandemic as if it was new. It was, the only difference is that we felt it. You felt it a whole lot more. But it's the same thing that our grandparents would say. They'll say, oh, back in the days, it was a nickel, and now it's $2, $3, So inflation is one of those core fundamental things that I like to teach my students and anybody, all my mentees, or anybody that want to listen. Is there anything else that you think that our listeners can really focus on and zero in on to ensure that they're in a better place when it comes to their personal finance?
Yeah, and thank you for asking that question, because, we can talk, you and I can talk about this. We're in it, we understand it, we're comfortable with it, but we have to understand that there are many people who are not comfortable with it. This can be a very intimidating discussion and topic. It's also very personal. So we have to understand that and have empathy. But I find you brought up the inflation point and the fact that our grandparents talked about it. I find that this conversation around money becomes more real when we can put it in terms of what people already know. And that's why I say we meet people where they're at when we're talking about money. So making it a real world experience. I can talk high level and use all the finance buzzword, and I'm going to miss my audience. We're going to lose them. So the one thing that I'll say there's two things. The first thing is for those of us that talk about money to make sure that we're meeting people where they're at and putting it in front of individuals in a way that they can understand by making it real to them. And then for those that are meeting us, right, because we're meeting you where we're at, come and meet us where we're at, is to be curious, to ask questions. Let's not hide from this conversation. We need to talk about this real world. I have children. I talked about money with my children. I didn't make it negative. I worked on mindset early so that now they have very positive thoughts when it comes to money. But we need to change our mindset. We need to make sure that we understand that this can be for us. And I'm not saying that it's always easy, but when we make a decision, and I always say we all have a vision, we all have to turn this vision into a reality. And we mostly do it by doing. It's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know. So when you get this information that's available to all of us, right? What are you going to do about it? And one of the things, I don't know if you run into this with your clients or when you're having this conversation, is they want to take over the world. And it's like, I'm going to go from negative to $1 billion. That's too much. This is a long game. Let's take it step by step, day by day. Let's incrementally improve on our information around our education around finance and work on the things that are most relevant to us and understand that this is a long game. Just like diet and exercise, we can talk about it, but unless we do it and we stay consistent, we're not going to see those results. So take it step by step, get help if you need it, but understand that this is for us. We deserve it. No one is coming to save us. So we must work towards doing the things that we need to do to save ourselves.
1,000% agree. I appreciate that. Said it very well. What's next for your company? So let's put the spotlight on what you're doing and what you hope to actually do with your company in the coming years. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so thank you. So one of the things is when I started the RBI Group, it was important for me to build a company outside of building and creating a job for myself. So I live it, long game, definitely started later leveraging my experience, but we're still in the plans. We're still expanding. We're looking at what's working and what's not working. We're looking at how we can enhance our digital platform, thinking about how we can incorporate more technology, more AI-driven advice and predictive analytics so that we can help our clients who are financial advisors make more proactive decisions. And when we're talking about financial education, when we're going to the community, how are we helping them address, how are we being a part of that change by addressing those gaps and introducing more programs and different initiatives to help to support our communities. So it's a multi-tiered approach. We're looking at how we can help to just overall expand our business, getting better, reaching more people, incorporating more technology, leveraging the power of AI when it makes sense, because we can power that with our own expertise and knowledge. Also, how can we just be better for our clients, whether it's the clients that we're helping to grow their businesses through the advisors, or we're helping to close that financial education gap and incorporating more programs that are meeting our audience where they're at and getting more into those communities to support them in their knowledge when it comes to financial education.
Are you a fan of AI or are you kind of opposed to it?
I understand the power of technology, right? So, been around for a while and know that there are some battles that are worth fighting. AI is not one of them. It's happening. So I like to be a part of the solution. We're not going to change. This is my opinion. This is purely a Renee Baker ideal here, but I'd rather embrace the power of technology. I've invested a lot of time in understanding it and learning it. I've made mistakes. I've learned from it, but I think we have to be adaptable And that's how I feel about AI. We have to seek to understand that there's technology that's going to help make our businesses better and smarter and faster. But I also come with that with a great deal of experience. I have 30 years of experience. So when I take that experience and then I add technology to it, come on now, we we making
There you go.
moves. So
There you
that's
go.
how I feel about it, and be smart and do the best that we can. I like to be as informed as possible, but the best way that I know how to get things done is by doing them, learning and growing. And I'm not afraid to make mistakes as long as we learn from them and it's not going to like blow our businesses up. So that's the thing that's my personal philosophy on AI.
Those that are fearful that it will replace humans, at least from my vantage point, I don't see it that way. I think it's more like you noted, the efficiency that you'll gain from it. Some of the things that we take humans to work on, we can go ahead and have a computer work on it, and the humans can work on the things that require that 30 years of knowledge that you have. That's something that AI can't replicate. It can't replicate the relationships that you have with people, the leadership component, but it can help you with some numbers. It can help you with some productivity. And I use it in all my businesses, but, I use it as a add-on, not like a replacement of what true people could bring to the table. So cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
100%. Like you can't replace empathy. You can't replace the human element or experience. Like Google is not replacing my expertise, right? Nor is AI. But I think to your point, the productivity and efficiency, we have to understand that the way we get better is by embracing technology.
What final thoughts or just advice would you like to share with the audience? And also, if you can close this out with your best ways to contact you or the RBI Group with your website and social media. So I just really appreciate your time and, close us out. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I would just say, as we're navigating our life's financial journey, I just think it's really important that we stay curious, learn as much as we can, being proactive as well, right? Like let's seek solutions before we have the problem, and being informed is a way to do that. And I also would say stay resilient. There are going to be challenges, whether we're talking about finance, whether we're talking about entrepreneurship, we're going to run into challenges. And the fact that we are able to be resilient is also very critical. And it's a way for us to survive, but more importantly, thrive. And I think that that's really important. So embrace learning, stay flexible, whether your strategy is in your business and in your life, stay flexible and understand the deeper reasons around why you make those decisions, right? When it comes to your finances. And that's going to go to mindset. You're shopping all the time. Are you shopping because you're seeking validation? And is there another way that you can seek validation? Yes, I have a lot of Apple products, but could I invest in my future by investing in the things that I like? And I'm not making a recommendation here. So I think that is something that I like to convey, whether it's personal or professional, is to do what you can to be better every single day. So that's what I would say. And just know that I always say the best is yet to come, because I trust that whatever we put our mind to, right, whatever we have a vision and we can make it a plan reality, is just about going for it. And life is short. We can get a new title. We can find all the things that we want, but what we can find is more time. So I'm really big on going for what it is that you want, no matter what it is that you're doing. And if you want to keep up with me and you want to know how you can continue to unleash these barriers in your professional or personal journey, I'm at It's Renee Baker all across social media or at the RBI Group. So my personal website is reneebaker.com. My business website is therbigroup.com. And I'm on social, so you can find us anywhere. So anyone listening, please connect and stay connected, and as we go through this journey together.
Perfect. And I'll make sure to include all of your contact information in the show notes. So anybody's watching or listening, just, go ahead and check the description and you'll be right there you'll be presented with all the information to go ahead and stay in touch with Renee. So thank you so much for taking the time to share your background with us and talk a little bit about financial education. Really appreciate you. And we're out. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.